Pierre, you have any apricots today?
No, no apricot. Peach cobbler though.
Peach cobbler made with apricots. Got
Yeah,
it.
made with apricot. And I knew you were gonna side with her.
I mean, every person should always side with the wife, right? Woman's
Right.
always right. Isn't that the secret to a happy marriage?
It is. But did you see all the people that said it was a peach?
I did. I did. That's because they didn't know it was Sherilyn who thought it was an apricot.
She needs her supporters too.
On the real, it did look like a peach.
How we doing with Mark?
I'm gonna resend him the,
Okay.
I just used the link that was on the agenda.
Yeah. I found with the meetings I attend, the sign in is usually several different ways. One of them is click here, join, and you're on the screen. You know, they bring you in. Other ones, you need an ID, you need a password. And,
It depends on the person that created the invitation. They can make those modifications and adjustments however they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Mine is, why don't we just have one? Standard. Click here to join.
I just send the link, click it, and you're in. Easiest way.
That works for me.
I sent him to, here he is, okay.
All right.
It looks like he's going to play golf or something.
It does.
Jump off the cliff there or what? There you are. Hey, Mark, okay.
That was interesting.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we'll get started here. We called meeting to order for the American Canyon Fire Protection District Board meeting for April 26, 2022. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chair Garcia,
Here.
Vice Chair Almudamos,
Here.
Board Member Joseph,
Here.
Board Member Pierre Washington,
Here.
David Oro, absent,
Absent, yes. Excuse.
excused.
Excuse, yeah. Okay, moving on in our agenda, proclamations presentation. There's none this evening. Public comment. We have public comment for any item not on the agenda?
Wait,
No.
let me do a report upon return.
Okay. Let's back up a moment. Report on closed session, confirmation, reportable action. Mr. Ross.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you convened in open session at 5:32 via Zoom where appropriate, absent board member Oro at 5:32. Ascertained that there were no comments on the closed session agenda and adjourned to address those matters agendized at 5:32. With respect to each of the matters considered under the closed session item, there was no reportable action under the common law attorney-client privilege and that provided by Government Code Section 54-956.9 D2. You concluded closed session at 6:43 p.m. That would conclude the report unless there are questions.
Any questions from directors? No. Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Ross. stated earlier, we'll move on to public comment on the item not on the agenda. Any members of the public? Nobody in the queue? All right, then I will close public comment. And we'll move on with any agenda changes. If none, we have our consent calendar next, and there's nothing to pull off the consent calendar. I'll accept a motion for approval.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Okay,
I'll second.
motion and second, roll call, please.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
Vice Chair Abadalos,
Yes.
Board Member Joseph,
Yes.
Board Member Washington.
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes our consent calendar. We're moving on to public hearings. There's none. Business items, there's none. Fire Chief oral report.
Thank you, Chair. So today marks 26 days in office. I think my hair might be a little bit grayer, but nonetheless, having a really good time. Again, just so incredible to be part of the community here in American Canyon and coming back to where I grew up. Couple items noteworthy on the district side. We began our interviews today for firefighter candidates. We have several days of interviews. I believe they will conclude Thursday. We will move on next week to chief's interviews for those that have scored well enough on the preliminary interviews this week, with the intent that our new firefighters will start their academy September 19th and be available on the line as part of our staffing, our daily staffing, October 15th. So this is a big opportunity for the district to welcome more members to our family and teach them the values that we have of community service and being very close-knit to the community. More to follow on that, but we had I believe it was about 200 applicants. So we did have a fairly large group of applicants. We had several paramedics as well, which is important for us for our ALS program. So we'll continue to move forward on that. Also, like to reintroduce to many of the board members and members of the community that are watching via Zoom, our interim assistant fire chief, Jim Kaminsky. Jim brings an amazing wealth of knowledge and experience to the fire district, not only from his operational sense and his previous tenure with the fire district, but also through his statewide contacts with the Fire Districts Association of California. So I'm personally very thankful for Jim to come and help us as an interim while we search for a new assistant fire chief. Tentatively, we're scheduled to start the recruitment process for that position in August. So looking forward to having several good candidates to move through that process. But in the interim, I'm very thankful for Jim to be down here. As many of you recall, Jim initially came down and helped Chief Cahill when Chief Cahill was interim, and in true Jim fashion, he has hit the ground absolutely running, and he hasn't missed a beat. It was almost like he never left. So very, very glad to have him here as part of the team. Obviously, next week we have National Night Out. We have obviously a lot of events, so I'm looking forward to getting out and meeting more members of the community, as well as through Meet Me in the Streets and various other public events here in the city. So hopefully I get to meet as many people as possible, and they can put a face to the name of their new fire chief. And with that, that concludes my report, unless you have any additional questions.
Well, thank you very much for your report. Question from board members?
No.
Well, Chief Kaminsky, welcome. Good to have you back. Thank you, sir. Looking forward to working with you. We appreciate what you do. Okay, how about moving on now? Board Member Joseph.
I have a fairly generic question, and that is the fires that are going on around here. I don't know if I should say it because it'll probably jinx things, but
Don't
so
say it.
far, I guess could you give us a quick report on the state fire situation? And
Yeah,
how it may or may
absolutely.
not impact us?
Absolutely. Currently, there's one large fire burning in California. It is the Oak Fire in Mariposa County. It's about 18,000 acres. From reading intel reports or watching the news, the fire is exhibiting the same, I can't even say it's unprecedented anymore, but the same explosive fire behavior that we have seen for the last several years. Obviously, in my last position, I had the opportunity to travel to several large fires up and down the state every summer. And quite honestly, this fire is behaving exactly like we have now come to expect, which is significant growth, rapid growth, and a high resistance to control efforts. In fact, Chief Kaminsky and I were just talking, I think the week before the Oak Fire started, that how remarkably, I don't want to say the word quiet, but how few large fires we had been seeing up and down the state with record drought and the fuel moistures being at critical levels. I would say the benefit for Napa County right now, and especially American Canyon, is that we're enjoying the typical sea breeze and morning fog that most of us knew growing up here and expect. And so that has really helped us locally with not having any large or significant fires because of the weather factor. However, you look at the calendar and it's hard to believe it's almost August. I would expect to see significant fire activity start to pick up and down the state. The fuels are now going to be reaching their driest point of the year. We get some prolonged heat waves that will just further compound the dryness of the vegetation. And then as we start to enter the fall season, that's where we typically see the large-scale north wind events, where Napa County has traditionally seen large and explosive fires. There is some forecast modeling for some monsoonal moisture to move up from Mexico and Arizona later this week. So we can't rule out the potential for lightning, but most of the models that I've seen really have that monsoonal moisture sticking more to the Sierras versus like we experienced last year when we had several dry lightning strikes in Napa County. I think they ignited over 30 fires in one day. So hopefully if the weather cooperates, we won't have the weather that is conducive to large fires. However, it's also very incumbent upon all the citizens to be fire safe. Vast majority of all fires, wildland fires that are started in California and actually nationwide, are human caused. So we just need to not be lulled into a sense of complacency because we haven't experienced a large fire here yet. We still need to maintain our vigilance and be fire safe every day that we're out conducting our normal lives and our normal course of business.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on then to chair board comments, committee reports, future agenda items. Anything from the board?
I have nothing.
Seeing none, hearing no comments on that, we have concluded our business for the evening. Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night, American
Take care.
Canyon.
Good night.